Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Women's Advanced Bible Study Night, the 5th of October, 2023. What I'll be dealing with is with a video for our topic for discussion, and this video is people are being questioned about should slave descendants be paid reparations, but it's coming from a different perspective, so that's what I want to deal with. So anyway, you can go to our YouTube channel for Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have a lot of videos on the channel, a lot of information, a lot of dots being connected. So if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Okay, and for those who feel the need to support the channel, you can check out our cash app at the bottom of the screen. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel, and by that I mean we deal with Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, which is in Book of Malachi, and the Torah. We don't subscribe to the New Testament and the God is from the New Testament. Okay, so shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our Women's Advanced Bible Study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence. We're going to do a prayer, read the Psalms, read women's health, and then we do some current events. And I think I got a little more than normal because there's a lot of stuff going on with that. So we can hang around in current events for a minute. Got some need to know information. Then we'll open it up for some questions and comments. And so what I want to do with that is to enhance our question and comments. I'm going to ask a question or pose a situation in this class for people to study or do research on it, and then we'll talk about it next week when Q&A come up. That way we can get more involved with that. Okay, so then we go into our topic. Like I said, should slave descendants be paid reparations? Okay, and then we'll close out. And then, okay, so this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and our Creator Yahweh and all that they're doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongs unto thee. Therefore we come before thee at this time, seeking thy face and looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as thy servants David and Solomon, Samuel, Hezekiah, Josiah, Jeremiah did, that we may walk before thee in truth and in righteousness and in rightness of heart. Give unto us, O Lord, an understanding heart, that we may discern between good and bad, for we know you possess the power to do just that. And we desire to walk after thee, O Lord, and to keep your commandments and your testimony, the statutes with all our heart and soul, to perform the words of this covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow thy face to shine upon our people, and hear our plea. Hear and do, O Lord, and hide not thy face from us any longer, for we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay, so we're going to read a psalm. Okay.
Yes, sir. Shalom.
Somebody want to read a psalm?
Okay. Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. I'll be reading Psalm 16 in its entirety. Psalm 16. Preserve me, O God, for thee do I put my trust. O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord, thou art my Lord. My goodness extendeth not to thee. Verse 3, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent, in whom all my delight. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. Verse 5, the Lord is the portion of my heart inheritance and my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are falling unto me in pleasant places. I have got goodly heritage. Verse 7, I will bless the Lord who have given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. Verse 8, I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoices. My flesh also shall rest in hope. Verse 10, for thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither will thou suffer thy Holy One to see corruption. Verse 11, thou wilt show me the path of life, and thy presence is fullness of joy. In thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. When I read this, and David is talking about unto his death, that he believes and he knows that the Lord of hosts is not going to leave him. He is going to, resurrect him, but he's not going to let the angels of Samuel take him to a place that's corrupt. So when I read that, and I thought about Enoch in 10, in 2nd Enoch, where he said, and I'll just read just a few verses here and we can get going. Here is 10 in Enoch, 2nd Enoch. Here they showed Enoch the frightful place and various tortures. And those men carried me to another northern region, and they showed me there a very frightful place, and all the kinds of torture and torment in the place, cruel darkness, lightness, gloom. There is no light there, and a black fire blazes up perpetual with a river of fire that comes out of the whole place. Fire here, freezing ice there, and it dries up, it freezes, and very cruel places of detention, and dark and merciless angels carrying instruments of atrocities, torturing without pity. And I said, woe, woe, how very frightful this place is. And those men said to me, this place, Enoch, has been prepared for those who do not glorify God, who presence on the earth the sin which is against nature, which is child corruption in the anus of the manner of Sodom, of witchcraft, enchantments, division, trafficking with demons, who boast about their evil deeds, stealing, lying, insulting, coveting, resentment, fornication, murder, and those steal the souls of men, secretly seizing the poor by the throat, taking away their possessions. And it just goes on, but it kind of, I had been reading that, and when I went to Psalm 16, it's like David did not, when he died, he does not want to be there. He knows that the Lord of hosts, because he loves him so much and he loves the Lord of hosts, will not let him be in a place such as that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Anybody have any comments on that?
Shalom. By her saying that, is that like saying, is that a level in heaven, or is that hell that he's speaking of?
Well, he created Guyana. When you understand what that is, that's the lowest part of hell. You got hell, then you got the lowest part of hell, which is Guyana, and that's and the scriptures talk about how he created that place for the fallen angels. And you have to look at it in a way like nuclear waste on the earth that mankind, and they don't have nowhere to put it. So they got these silos that they make for this nuclear waste because they just can't do anything with it. So these angels, they his sons. They sons, the sons of God. So he didn't kill them, but he had to find somewhere to put them. So that's why he created hell. But because of men started, you know, venturing toward the way, like what you was mentioning what you was mentioning about what they was doing. This is, if you go to Enoch, that's what Enoch. It's the same thing Enoch says when he tells you about what they produce, what they show to the women. Those same things that you was just reading They listed when it says that the fallen angels came down and they taught women and mankind. That's the same thing. So anybody that fall into that and start dealing with those sins that those fallen angels brought, he says the hell is enlarged for them also. So it's in the earth. And so one of the things you want, I mean, you can't, when you talk about that, you got to look at the contrast, which is the lie in the New Testament, because it says that the purpose of JC going down in the for 3 days and 3 nights in the earth, which is where in hell, Guyana, was to get all our forefathers and bring them up. So when he ascended up, when he went to hell, then he went up. He told Mary, I hadn't yet ascended to my Father. Well, according to the story and the narrative, Adam and all them ascended up with him. They was all in Abraham's bosom. You know, if you go back to the story about the rich man and the poor man, you know, the rich man ended up in hell, and the poor man was over in Abraham's bosom. There was a chasm in between. And he told the rich man, or the rich man told him to tell all his friends about this place and to warn them about it. So, like I said, all that's a lie, because we know the scriptures tell us when Abraham passed, he ascended to his fathers. When all the men died, they ascended. They didn't descend, they ascended. So this place, paradise, or this place where they going, where their forefathers are at, it ain't in the Guyana, it ain't in hell. That's a lie from the pits of hell. Okay? And we also see the story with with David. And when David said he gave up the ghost, and then he found himself amongst these wicked men, wicked spirits, which is those spirits of those giants, spirits of the Nephilim. They tried to hold him here. They tried to keep him from ascending, not descending. They tried to keep him from ascending. So David cried to Yahweh in heaven. And the Lord host came thundering down and got him. Said he took him to the Lord's place, which is in heaven. It ain't in hell. It's not down on the earth. Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to go into our women's health moment.
Yes, shalom, everyone. Please note that the information that is shared is intended for general, informational, and educational purposes only and is not medical advice or recommended treatment. Tonight's discussion is on why onions are good for you. They may bring tears to your eyes and a stench to your breath, but onions also add a lot of flavor to dishes. Whether you like this root vegetable raw or cooked, there are many health benefits to eating onions. Onions are part of the allium family, a group of spicy, sharp root vegetables that includes garlic, leeks, and chives. There are many varieties of onions to choose from, including yellow, red, white, purple, Spanish, and Vidalia onions. They also have many health benefits. People have used onions for medicinal purposes for centuries. Onions are a good source of vitamins, minerals, and fiber, and are known to offer a variety of health benefits such as blood sugar regulation, bone health. It decreases inflammation. It fights against infection. It relieves sore throat and coughing symptoms. It improves your digestive system. Onions are also a good source of vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. This vitamin is needed for immune function and maintenance of skin and hair. It is also a good source of folate. Folate is B9. Folate is essential for cell growth and metabolism and especially important for pregnant women. Vitamin B6, found in most foods. This vitamin is involved in the formation of red blood cells. It is also a good source of potassium. This essential mineral can have blood pressure lowering effects and is important for heart health. The bottom line is that onions are a root vegetable with a variety of benefits and come in many different varieties. They're high in antioxidant and sulfur containing compounds, some of which may have several beneficial effects. Commonly used as flavoring or a side dish, onions are a staple food in many cuisines. They can be baked, boiled, grilled, fried, roasted, or even sauteed. So if you enjoyed them, onions can be a valuable component of a healthy diet. I will be reading Numbers chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. The people complain. Verse 1. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses. And when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. Verse 4. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. Verse 7. And the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, and ground it in mills, or beat it in a mortar, and baked it in pans, and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. Verse 9. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Tonight's discussion was on why onions are good for you, and I read Numbers chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. Shalom.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on that? Yeah. So,
Shalom.
okay.
Thank you. I really like onions, and I'm glad it's helping me.
Okay. Yeah. So, what you was reading about the fire, I was I wanted to shine a light on that because of, anybody, I know everybody on here saw the Ten Commandments, the one with Charles Nelson in it, right?
Yes, sir.
You
Sir.
see
Yes, sir.
when they was on Mount Sinai and
Yes, sir.
he wrote the Ten Commandments, and the special effects was this big old whirlwind of fire, and it would shoot out fire, and it hit the side of the mountain, and it burned the commandments in it. Anybody remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So how you have to look at that was go back to when they came out of Egypt. It says Yahweh was in a cloud. It was a being entity in a cloud, and then it was one down when they was at fire. So my thing is this: that's the same fire that when they showing you in the movie that's quite the Ten Commandments. That's the Lord of hosts, and then that's him. That when Pharaoh started, the Egyptian army started closing in on them, he moved from the front to the back, and so it's the same fire that was on the bush. But my point is this: if you go to Exodus, he says that he's talking to Moses, and he said, "This great fire that you see, that's the Lord of hosts." Yahweh talking, but he said, "This great fire," just like she just read. That's the Lord of hosts. Because notice he can, when he was on Mount Horeb, he transformed to a fire, and he was on the bush, but the bush didn't burn. And the same thing with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. he came in there and neutralized the fire that they had made in the furnace, and he subdued it. His fire, he's a consuming fire. So when he came and subdued that fire, and it caused it didn't do no harm to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But everybody else looking at it thinking it's the same fire. So I just want to shine a light on that. A lot of people don't know that, understand that. That's him. So yeah. Okay. Let's go back and read it. You'll see it. Yeah, so we got the current events right here. Okay.
Spoke up about how the U.S. forced them to ban Huawei. But wasn't it all about security concerns? From what the European nations have to say, it looks like the bans were not intended to secure national security, but rather to secure dominance. But with or without bans, nothing has been able to stop Huawei. And what's the reason? Well, self-work prevailed sanctions, and Huawei proved that. While Huawei made achievements no matter what the circumstances were, a few nations struggled without Huawei, and they were European nations. But after learning a lesson, they are back to work with Huawei. But will China accept that? Let's find out. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our channel. Innovation Diary brings you China's innovation stories, projects, and growing influence in different parts of the world. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about fast-paced modernity, especially China's development and growing power, you will find our videos intriguing. In this video, we will discuss what made the European nations regret. We will also talk about the reason behind the European nations' dependence on Huawei. Watch the video till the very end to know if the nations will now be allowed to work with China after being puppets of the US. Let's get started. In the world of global technology and telecommunications, Huawei, the Chinese tech giant, has found itself at the center of a geopolitical storm. Since 2019, the United States has been employing a variety of tactics to sanction Huawei, citing concerns over the security of Huawei's 5G equipment. Simultaneously, the US has been attempting to persuade its allies, such as Japan and European Union nations, to join in boycotting Huawei. It appeared that the United States was trying all means to suppress Huawei. However, the landscape has begun to shift.
Yeah, so before we go any further, anybody familiar with this word, that word Huawei?
No, sir. It sounds like Yahweh, but no, sir.
No, it's HUAWEI. So I was giving you that so you can do some research on it, because I talked about it before, maybe a couple of years ago, but I'm gonna shine a light on it. I'm gonna let this play first for. Yeah.
Recently, with some European countries altering their stance and lifting bans on Huawei's 5G equipment.
It's like Google.
Notably, Germany, a traditionally strong US ally, rejected American pressure and opted to allow Huawei to participate in its internet communications infrastructure. But to understand the importance of this decision, you need to know Germany's role a few months back. Germany wanted to decouple from China. It was one of the other nations eager to de-risk, but it turned out that Germany was being forced. And how did this become public? Germany's economy had a hard time, and this grabbed everyone's attention. Near the recession, Germany finally decided to speak up. It mentioned that it won't follow more sanctions and will start working with China. This unexpected turn of events raised the question, why did Germany choose to defy the United States and lift the ban on Huawei's 5G technology? What implications does this hold for the future of European sanctions against Huawei? Before delving into the recent updates, it's essential to acknowledge Huawei's pivotal role in global communications. As a leading supplier of communication equipment, Huawei has played a crucial strategic role in the construction of 5G networks worldwide. The company has established a strong presence in various regions, including Europe, where it operates multiple research and development centers and production facilities. Moreover, Huawei has fostered enduring partnerships with telecom operators across European nations, providing comprehensive 5G solutions that contain everything from infrastructure construction to network optimization and maintenance. Despite Huawei's global reach and collaborations, the US government viewed Huawei's technological advancements with growing concern. The US imposed multiple rounds of sanctions on Huawei and actively sought to rally its allies against the Chinese tech giant. These sanctions included banning American companies from exporting advanced equipment to Huawei and limiting Huawei's access to Qualcomm's 5G chips. European nations, under pressure from the United States, also announced bans on Huawei's 5G equipment, signaling their intent to stop Huawei's global expansion. Several European countries, such as Italy, the United Kingdom, and Germany, initially aligned themselves with the United States and distanced themselves from Huawei. They committed to dismantling Huawei's equipment, despite the considerable costs. However, the situation began to evolve. Germany, in particular, faced a complex dilemma. It boasts approximately 82,000 mobile communication stations, with nearly half relying on Huawei technology. Removing all Huawei equipment would incur astronomical costs, potentially reaching 400 million euros, approximately $450 million. Moreover, completely excluding Huawei could lead to estimated losses of up to 5 billion euros, along with significant delays in railway sector projects. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about China's development, power, and influence on the world. Let's continue. Germany's economic entanglements with Huawei further complicated matters. A 12 billion euro contract between Huawei and the German government needed careful consideration. Severing ties with Huawei would result in substantial damages exceeding $1 billion, a significant burden on Germany's budget. In September 2023, German Chancellor Scholz made a significant announcement, confirming that Huawei's 5G equipment posed no security risks. Germany declared its intention to continue issuing licenses for the installation of Huawei's 5G equipment, officially concluding its 2-year security investigation into Huawei and ZTE. This decision carried broader implications for Huawei and the geopolitical landscape. Germany's assertion that Huawei and other Chinese 5G equipment were not involved in surveillance activities marked a key moment. It challenged the notion of US control over European decisions, signaling Germany's capability to make independent choices. This development could stop the United States' ability to use the equipment security card to restrict Huawei. From Huawei's perspective, Germany's decision represents a significant victory. It supports Huawei's position in the global 5G market, showcasing the company's technological superiority and reliability. Huawei has been at the forefront of 5G technology, surpassing competing solutions, such as the Open RAN initiative jointly launched by the US and Europe. Germany's renewed cooperation with Huawei is not solely rooted in technology or security concerns. The economic ties between China and Germany and had a significant presence in the European telecommunications infrastructure market. However, the situation began to change primarily due to pressure from the United States. The United States raised national security concerns and urged its European allies to reconsider their collaboration with Huawei, asserting that Huawei's technology could be used for espionage by the Chinese government. Under this pressure, some European countries, including Italy, the United Kingdom, and Germany.
So we'll stop it right there. So notice he said that the United States something wrong and said that this Huawei company was national security, had national security implications to it. So what is it? It's just like Google is. And if you know anything about Google, Google is a military application. It's tied to the Pentagon. Well, I talked about this about 3 or 4 years ago, how you got to understand that when Jacob and Esau was born, it's a lot that's riding on that. It's either everybody want to come up with all these different people that's ruling the world, but originally Israel was ruling the world. David, then Solomon came. That was the custodians of the planet. Then we know that Esau came in. Jacob was cast out, and Esau came in. So it's either Jacob ruling or Esau ruling. And I'm showing you, I was telling you how Esau has a plan. Hitler is an Edomite, and he wanted to rule the world from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. That's what these Zionists want to do. They want to rule the world for 1,000 years. So this Yahweh application right here is an Edomite invention. But like I told, telling you how they hiding behind, they always hide behind somebody else. But that came out of Israel. Israel is everybody, the whole world is buying all the military equipment, all this high-tech technology is coming out of Israel. Now these Israelis, they the ones behind this. And so the European Union, not the European Union, but the African Union found out 4 or 5 years ago, we was talking about it, how they found out that they was being surveyed. They was being secretly surveyed in all their meetings. All their meetings was being recorded at the African Union. It was through this equipment right here. So the same thing with all these countries, everybody that's dealing with it. Esau got, doves on them because they're able to. It's like it's a global thing that's unifying all nations, all countries together. This technology. But Esau the one behind it, invented it and came over with this military application. Like I said, they're the number one. They're the number one military arms dealer in the whole world. So a lot of people don't know that. So the reason I'm saying that is they have a plan to rule the world. But everybody looking right now at China and Russia. So Esau the one with all the money. Esau the one is dealing with the bank. Esau is the bankers. They're the ones dealing with the financial part of all these different countries. If you go back to Nathan Rothschild, he said he don't give a damn about nothing else, the countries or whatever they're doing, as long as he control their money. He good. That Esau controlling Rothschild and Esau, these Zionists controlling all the wealth of the world, the money systems. And like I said, they're the architect behind this Yahweh, whatever it is. Like I said, it's like Google, but it's like Google on steroids because of 5G and all that, and quantum stuff. You got to do research on it. Then, like I said, we'll come back and we'll talk about it again after everybody did a little research and maybe get some more feedback on it. But that's what they got in play right there. This right here. A lot of people don't understand the magnitude of that whatever that is, that Yahweh, whatever you call it. I did a lot of research on it back in the day and found out that this, Israel got the patent on it. So, any comments? Okay. Okay.
United States, where the army is facing its most formidable foe.
Check this out.
No, it's not China. It's not even Russia. It's Gen Z. You heard that right? Those born between 1996 and 2010. That's what Gen Z stands for.
Okay.
The generation known for TikTok and avocado toasts. And now their lukewarm response to combat boots. Gen Z does not want to join the US Army, and this is causing a recruitment crisis. Some context first. The US military ended its draft system in 1973. Before that, serving in the military was compulsory in America. After 1973, it became voluntary. 50 years have passed since. And now the US military is facing its worst recruitment crisis in history. Just look at the numbers. They're failing to meet recruitment targets. The signs have been there for a while, but this year the numbers are particularly bad. The Army is expected to fall short by 15,000 recruits, the Navy by 10,000, and the Air Force by 3,000 recruits. So all three branches are falling short by around 28,000 people. Now, the US military has 1.4 million active personnel. So a deficit of 30-odd thousand recruits may not look like a big deal, but the Pentagon does not think so. This is the world's third largest army we're talking about. A dip in the numbers could hinder their defenses. But what explains the shortfall? There are some traditional factors like a strong job market and better incentives in the private sector. But the biggest factor is Gen Z. They're simply not interested in military service. The Pentagon even conducted a survey about this. It talked to young adults. Only 9% of them said they would consider service. That's the lowest level since 2007. Only 9%. Military leaders say they're struggling to hit targets. That's because most of the potential recruits do not meet their standards. Data shows that young people are simply not interested. They do not see a future in the armed forces. Critics say this is lack of patriotism. But America's Gen Z begs to differ. They say it's a lack of old-fashioned patriotism. For them, serving a nation is not just about joining the army. There are other avenues, like social service or political activism, and it turns out they're more inclined towards that. Plus, there's economic stability. A strong job market has been historically associated with low recruitment for the military. And currently, the US job market is doing well. This makes the Army's benefits look less attractive. So it's no surprise what the youth are choosing. Also, there's lack of awareness. Most of them do not really know how time in the Army is actually spent or what the benefits are. So in 2018, the US Army launched a marketing campaign. They invested about $4 billion in marketing. This is a 10-year plan to attract the youth. But so far, that effort has come up short. Gen Z is still opting out. And even if they want to serve, many fail to qualify. They do not make the cut when it comes to physical and mental health. Most of them are overweight. This is according to Johns Hopkins. It talks about Americans between 18 and 25 years of age. More than half of them are overweight, so they cannot enlist. Plus, a record number of young people have mental disorders. They seek therapy. In the US, that's immediate disqualification from service. So even if Gen Z wants, they cannot serve, and that's saying something. So what's the Army doing about this? Well, they're not changing the rules for now, but they're venturing into the world of TikTok and Discord with videos like these. Get ready with me for a day in service, or a video that says, know your Army. Basically, the US military is trying everything. Several branches have also increased recruitment payouts, more incentives to lure people. It hasn't really worked yet, but there's something that has. A recent decision by the US Air Force, and listen to this, they have relaxed rules on hand and neck tattoos, also on past marijuana use. You will not be disqualified for that if you've used it in the past. And this has boosted numbers. Maybe that's the key. While life in the Army is all about discipline and living by the rules, perhaps some of those rules need an update. Like in this day and age, seeking therapy cannot be seen as a weakness. Should you be disqualified from service because of it? It's a point to ponder. They can also cast a wider net, focus on diversity. America allows women and the LGBT community to serve in the military, but their numbers have been historically low. So maybe they could work on that. The US military was once an institution. It inspired tales of heroism and duty, at least for Hollywood it did. But now those tales are falling on the deaf ears of Gen Z.
Okay, any comments on that? Okay, very good. Yeah, so they don't, these kids now that
Shalom. Excuse me, sir. Shalom. Yes, I'd like to comment on that. I was in the military and how things have changed since the Obama administration, and LGBTQ has, grown significantly visible with voice. It's again back to when we just talked about, and you just mentioned again about these fallen angels, getting with the men, getting with the women, the witchcraft and all of that. It's just considerably visible. to date. Shalom.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's like I mean, they have no intentions whatsoever. You know, everything is deteriorating. You know, the kids don't want to deal with the military. It's nothing the same. There's no coming back from what we see happen. Okay, it's in all aspects of the American way of life is just deteriorating. That brings us to this y'all need to know information right here. I don't know if anybody know this lady. She's out of Nigeria, I think. She's an author, writer, and all that. Shamanda, I can't say her name. Ngozi Adichie. You probably haven't seen her, but I'm not saying her name right.
Coming to the US to go to college and just being shocked by how little people knew of my world. I mean, I just thought that it was very strange that in 1997, people would ask me, do you have houses in Nigeria? And I was stunned by that, you know. And in some ways, when you're outside of the US, and America has such cultural power that we're all familiar in some ways with Americans who watch the films, who listen to the music, and in some ways, you stupidly assume that America also has a sense of you. Right. And then I came here and I just was shocked by that. Yeah. But it also made me think about how, in some ways, we're all, as human beings, potentially guilty of having a single story about other people. Yeah. Yeah. So while I was upset that they knew very little about where I had come from, I went to Mexico and I realized, my goodness, I'm doing the same thing that Americans did to me. Because in Mexico, I thought, my God, they're normal, they're happy, they're laughing. Because I had been in this country where the constant coverage of Mexicans was so negative and so one-sided, the appeal of Donald Trump. I just do not understand it. And I think, you know, we're talking about, who's going to win the elections in this country. And it seems to me that there is a kind of almost willful disregard of the fact that there's a person who I think is dangerous for this country, who has enormous support in certain parts of this country. And we should ask why. I want to understand it and I don't. So that bewilders me. I think also this idea of, you know, the tribal orthodoxies, that there's certain things you're not supposed to say. I think in this country now, if somebody on the right agrees with something, then many people on the left feel compelled to immediately disagree with it and not think about the content of it. So this kind of tribal thinking, which I think shuts down thought. You know, we're not thinking critically. So someone on the right approves of this, I don't approve of it because I'm on the left. And I think also the reverse is the case. And I find that bewildering on so many levels because what it means is that we can't even talk about, you know, I want to talk about the content of things. I want to be able to, you know, decide for myself whether something is good or bad, and not have it be linked to whether my tribe approves of it. And I think it's getting worse and worse. And so, which is the reason why I'm increasingly bored with political discourse in this country, because I can see someone on TV or read a piece in the newspaper, and I kind of know what their position is on anything. And often it's very tribally correct, which may not necessarily be intellectually correct. You know? So that bewilders me. But this is also a country, America is my second home. And there's a kind of, you know, in the way that you worry when you see something you care about starting to crumble. That's the feeling I have about the US. Young people.
Okay.
In this journey called life, I've realized the importance of finding someone.
Not just young people, really, everyone, people who are on social media, there's an expectation that you will not get compassion. And so, you know, you tweet something and then people are coming at you, even your friends who know that and that idea that whatever you say has the most uncharitable, that people will read it in the most uncharitable way. I think it makes people hold back. And then, of course, the moral courage part of it is that there are people who could speak up and they don't. I think what's happening now in the sort of, the books that are not being published, you open the newspapers and often there's someone who's been dropped from something. It's often not because those in positions of authority really believe that what has been said was bad. It's because they're afraid. The jolly coarseness of life. And to that, I like to say, it doesn't have to be jolly. No, we live in a world now where people talk about sensitivity readers. So imagine if you were a writer, you don't want your publisher to have to get a sensitivity reader for your book. So you're going to do the sensitivity writing yourself. Yeah. But also, I think that humor as a device in storytelling is so important because we can use humor to talk about things that really matter. And humor is universal. And so when people are laughing, but they're also sort of taking something in. And here's the other thing about the progressive left, my tribe. We've lost the ability to laugh. And I think storytellers are essential for every society. If we don't have our storytellers feeling free enough to tell our stories, we're losing something. And then the generations who will come after us, I think they're going to just be startled. We look back and we read Dickens and, I read Nossa. My life. And I said that not at all thinking that I was causing offense at all. Not intending to cause offense, but I also understand that it's possible to cause offense without meaning to, right? It is. But I didn't, and so afterwards I was so taken aback by, there were, people who wrote to people. I mean, it was just really horrible. I took to my bed for 2 weeks. But what, and I don't like to talk about it because I don't like to cast myself as a victim. It's almost impossible to talk about this with nuance without being accused either of, oh, you're making yourself the victim, or, oh, you're so insensitive, kind of. I remember thinking, well, why would anybody think that I meant harm? Because people said, well, you're creating a hierarchy. People said you're a murderer. And I thought, my whole life has been about the celebration and the embrace of diversity and I love the idea that we are different in the world. And I think my walk speaks for myself, for itself and the positions I've taken. And so it made me start to realize how, again, that idea of compassion, that idea of a kind of narrowing, very, very vicious narrowing of just how one is supposed to be, right? And I also, I got a lot of flowers from people during that period. It was almost as though somebody had died. No, seriously.
Okay. So that name is CHIMAMANDA. Probably know what it is, just I ain't saying it right. But like I was saying, she's Nigerian, and I said it over and over again. Nigeria is Ephraim. You break it down. The Joseph children. Okay. So with that being said, anybody have any comments? Okay, we'll go into our Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything they came across or they heard on Prophets of Awakening, they want to talk about it on the line with some clarity or whatever?
Shalom. Yesterday, when they had the test, a lot of people did not receive it. In some places, it did not occur. So they were saying that if you didn't receive it on your cell phone, you probably had a cell phone that wasn't with Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T. And then they said that you probably you were somewhere not close to a tower when it bounced off and connected with your phone. So there were a lot of glitches with the tests. So I don't know if they're going to do it again or not.
Yeah, the 11th of October. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else have anything? Anybody have anything they want to bring up or they want to talk about? Well, I was telling everybody about how to keep if you pay attention how these people trying everything under the sun to usurp what's going on in West Africa, right? So that the young guy that's Tory, they tried to kill him one time, but here we go again. He's the face of the rebellion. Yeah.
Faso, and this time around, the people of Burkina Faso, there has been another coup attempt in Burkina Faso, and this time around, the people of Burkina Faso went out to the streets, specifically at the UN roundabout, to voice their opinion and to protect their leader, Ibrahim Traore, at all cost.
Yeah, back in the day, every time an African leader would rise up that the people would connect to, they kill him. They're trying to do that now, but like I say, it's not business as usual.
Burkina Faso alleged that the officers and others had planned to destabilize the country and throw it into chaos. And it's quite interesting how this happened right after Burkina Faso expelled the French defense personnel that we talked about. We covered this story just a few days ago. Burkina Faso just announced that they are kicking out a French defense attaché named Emmanuel Pasquer, and they only gave him 2 weeks to leave their country. And guess why they are kicking him out? They said, quote, he was involved in subversive activities. They are accusing him of troublemaking, starting some drama, and trying to disrupt their institution. This is the reality of many African countries right now, especially the ones that are standing up against exploitation and neo-colonization. This is what's happening. You cannot tell us that there's no connection between what is happening right now in these African countries that are saying no to this evil machine and what's happening to them in return. It's clear as day. We can't, of course, say that this is for sure what's happening unless and otherwise the Burkina Faso government gives us receipt. I remember Mali was talking about how they have evidence of how the French military was moving in their country, and they literally said that they're willing to present that evidence to the UN Security Council, and they asked the UN Security Council to open up a case so that France can be investigated. But guess what? Nothing has happened thus far. And I was even saying in my last report that Mali should release those evidence. We need to know. It doesn't matter if the UN doesn't want to hear you out. The world wants to hear you. Africans wants to hear you, and that is what matters at the end of the day, because even if they say okay to investigating France, I don't think justice will be served. How will they turn on their own people? It's unlikely. It's not going to happen, and we're not going to hold our breath for that to happen. But in Burkina Faso case, as I said, even though Burkina Faso is still investigating those military personnel that were involved in this attempted coup, some of them, even from the first attempt, are currently in jail and being investigated. So unless and otherwise Burkina Faso comes out and gives us a straightforward evidence, we still have to say allegedly. But it's quite interesting that they expelled the personnel from the defense, from the embassy. And by the way, I forgot to mention, the same day that the coup attempt was happening, Burkina Faso banned a French language news magazine, accusing them of publishing articles discrediting the armed force. So obviously the signs are there, and we have so much to cover when it comes to this topic, but at the end of the day, it's not really looking good. But one thing I want to focus on more than anything else is the people. the people of Burkina Faso, as soon as they heard about the attempted coup, they went out to the streets, driving on a motorbike, walking. They just needed to get to that point to come together and to show support to the young leader of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore. And that shows you that our people are over letting these people get away in, let's say, assassinating one of our own, or our heroes just end up unalived. And it's unfortunate that we have to say this, but not a lot has been done, or the people did not stand up for our fallen heroes. But now it's a clear indication of times have changed when...
Right, so we see right here, they're not going to stop, but we see it's not business as usual no more. They're trying everything they can to kill this dude. You know, it ain't happening. Okay.
Is well and truly sick of watching their country go to hell under this Biden administration. Let's look at a Dem-run city through and through, New York City. Just last week, we were talking about the mayor, Eric Adams, saying we're at breaking point. We're putting up 57,000 illegal immigrants a night in luxury hotels. It is costing New Yorkers millions, day in, day out. The streets are unrecognizable. If you were watching this and you didn't know this was New York City, you would not think it was New York City. They're saying we're at breaking point. We can't keep this up. The cost of the initial project has already blown out fivefold. It's going to cost New Yorkers $12 billion over the next 3 years. And the number of illegal immigrants flooding into the country is simply growing and growing. Last week, we were also talking about Staten Islanders who had been arrested simply trying to stop more immigrant-laden buses from rolling onto their island. Americans have had enough. That's why I don't think that they care about this shutdown half as much as you might think so, because the country is already going to heck under this Biden administration. And let's not forget, this is invasion by design. Here is the governor of New York years ago telling people, come one, come all, you are so welcome here.
We want people to come here, despite where they came from, or despite the circumstances that drove them to this country, into this state. We say you are welcome here. You're welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe. We'll not only house you, but we'll protect you. So our message to the world is: send us your people, send us those who need the cloak of comfort.
You have to let the word out that when you come to New York, you're not going to have more hotel rooms. We don't have capacity. So we have to also message properly that we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else.
What a difference 2 years can make. What happened to the cloak of comfort, lady? You promised us a cloak of comfort. We're very comfortable in these luxury hotels. And the pertinent question was actually posted by Elon Musk himself. He says, if New York is already buckling under the load and has run out of room, what will the situation be like a year from now? The open border policy started under Biden 2 years ago. That policy was not in place under Obama, and Governor Hochul is Democrat, not Republican. So this is not some Democrat versus Republican political battle. It is specific to the current administration. And that is all part and parcel of what we currently see playing out with those rogue Democrats being like, enough. One of their big push points was also, you are not sending more money to Ukraine. You're trying to ram it through. We are absolutely not doing it. Our own people are suffering. So for this reason, and many, many more, I don't think everyday Americans care half so much. This is the kind of stuff they're concerned about.
Well, it's nothing to do with what the actual rolling of Kevin McCarthy had to do with, and the deal that Kevin McCarthy made with the Democrats didn't involve sending any money to Ukraine. So I think they're just, if they're angry about something, they're taking it out on the cat.
No, it was the fact that Kevin McCarthy, while he was GOP leader, gave 46% of his votes to the Dems. votes.
Yeah.
And the Republicans were sick of it.
But no money was given to Ukraine in the latest deal. But I will say, you're absolutely right. The problem is that
You are referring to the one deal instead of his history with them. They're not referring to, they didn't do this over one deal.
Just to go back to the migrants in New York
Wasn't
for a
one
second.
strike and you're out. He's been striking out for a long time. And
The New York governor talking about, the cloak of comfort, and then 2 years later, please, no more people under the cloak of comfort. It's all busy. It demonstrates the difference. When you vote.
Record number of migrants crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities. Now hospitals are sounding the alarm, saying they're also overwhelmed, including some far from the border. Julia Ainsley has our report.
Tonight, the border crisis surging. Officials telling NBC News there were over 200,000 illegal crossings at the southern border last month, and a record 3 million migrants crossed the border in the last year. Now, a new warning 1,000 miles away in New York City, where officials tell us resources are overwhelmed. Across public hospitals in New York City over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
This has been the hardest work that I've ever done, but it's been the most impactful work that I've ever done.
And most of the visits to the taxpayer-funded legal clinic here are by migrants.
Our clinics are full, and there are waiting lists, and people are turning people away or referring them to other places.
Randy Redkin from New York's Legal Assistance Group says so many migrants are asking for legal help on asylum representation and healthcare access. Now, she says, American citizens who need legal assistance with issues like eviction and insurance have to wait up to 10 weeks.
If you ask me, do we need more resources for legal services? I would say absolutely yes.
Meanwhile, New York's governor now slamming the situation at the border.
It is too open right now. People coming from all over the world are finding their way through, simply saying they need asylum.
And New York Mayor Eric Adams saying providing services for migrants will cost city taxpayers $12 billion. But Biden administration officials have blamed Adams' response. It is not an operationally sound effort, one senior DHS official told NBC News. Meanwhile, migrants on the streets are desperate for city help. We met Orlando, who fled violence in Venezuela. He didn't want to appear on camera, telling us he slept on the street before coming to Bellevue for cancer treatment.
How is that for you, given your medical condition, to be sleeping on the street?
You have to make believe it's a good bed, a king size, and you lie down wherever and go to sleep, he says. Orlando tells us he came to New York because he heard about the social services the city would offer to migrants like himself, who are trying to start a new life.
The Biden administration recently granted temporary legal status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans, allowing them to work. Today, Governor Hochul announced there are 18,000 jobs now available to eligible migrants.
Okay. Any comments? Not looking good. Coming in from all angles.
Shalom. It's like a slap in the face. You got all these they probably got more homeless Americans in New York on the streets, and they're giving jobs to the migrants because the migrants doesn't have any pass or any debt, and they're coming in for asylum to gain money, gain access to better health care. And just like the gentleman said, come to New York and you can get free health care, basically. And then you have homeless person on the street who is out of their home and in debt because they have a hospital bill and they can't pay it, and then they can't work, so now they're homeless. It is something else.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and like they said earlier, it's all by it's all by design. You got something going on with all that. Yeah.
It is all by design, because you gotta really look at it where the focus is at. The focus is on the Mexicans and the Venezuelans, right? But they have the Ukrainians coming over here by the plane loads that they are just letting in. right? So you got to
Right.
think about the free health care that they're giving to them, the free benefits as far as, you know, the monthly income that they receive, that there is money that even we can receive if we host them. And nobody's talking about that, though, on top of all the money that they are sending to Ukraine, right? So and you can look this information up, and it's called Unity for Ukraine. They are
Right.
totally supporting them, but then they are putting our focus on the Mexicans and how they're coming across the border by you know, boatloads, but not focusing on everything that they're doing for the Ukrainians, that they are, you know, letting come over here for free and basically get all the benefits that we don't even, you know, that we don't even receive.
Right.
So it's something that is really going on with that. It's like really they can create their own city, because it's like over 270,000 that they have let come over here. So
Right.
there's a website that you can go to host them and get paid money. And just here lately in New York, they had a job fair for them. But nobody's talking about that.
Right.
All the focus is on what's going on at the borders with the Mexicans.
Right.
Shalom.
That's true. I've seen that article, Miss Michelle. And when you say nobody's talking about, they're not talking about the Haitians that they turned back. You know, they're not talking of the brown color of anything, you know, and they were whipping the Haitians when they were coming over with whips and on horses, but they're not talking about how they're not letting them in, but letting all the other cultures in.
Right.
Shalom.
Exactly.
Shalom. I'm going to do the research on how many male Ukrainians of war or military age to that's coming over, because if there is more of the men that's coming over, and like you just said about they can make their own community, and if they wanted to join, if they allow them to have that temporary citizenship that gave them, and if they want to join the military, or they can get them a coup of people in their little area, because there says thousands of men, more men in that range of military age.
Shalom, Cheryl,
Okay.
that is true. Here in Louisiana at Fort Johnson, they do the training for them here. So I have seen that. You go in Walmart, they're in Walmart, you know, they come by the van loads, you know what I'm saying? So they are giving them that training. I have seen that myself.
Right. Exactly. And we see Ukrainian people around here. Like I said, they supposed to be so distressed out, but I mean, what you doing in the flower shop? They all in the flower shop getting. I mean, you supposed to be just come out of a war zone. Seems like to me the last thing you be worrying about is some damn flowers.
Right.
That's crazy.
Shalom. Yes. Yes, and I was in Walmart in one, and she looked now as a Ukrainian person. She had makeup and she had things that a person would have in their buggy as if they were here all the time. And she says, I need food, I need, and she was, you know, approached me of wanting me to help her out to buy something in her basket, in those things that she was cosmetic. There was nothing needed in that basket. There's a lot of wanted items that she could have done without. And she walked up on me and asked me to help her out. She had a little kid in her buggy, and she said, "Well, I'm here and I don't have much." And I'm like, "Well, what are you looking at her buggy? Why are you buying these things here?" And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "Look at mine," and then she walked away. So,
Well,
yes.
probably got a website, where you find a Ukrainian woman. I'm gonna tell you. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, you see them all over the place. Dating site. Get your Ukrainian woman. You see them all over the place.
Yes.
Anybody else got anything?
I was just going to say, you got to look at it. There's a difference in something going on. We may not know it all right now and able to connect all the dots right now, but there's a difference between the Mexican immigrants and the Ukrainian immigrants. I mean, the way that they are supporting them again in their quest here with coming to the U.S., right? And which both groups are receiving benefits, yes, but they are freely allowing the Ukrainians in and giving them support and, paying families to host them and so forth. But it's a difference with, the Mexican immigrants. I was watching a video today on YouTube where Chicago, some of the citizens are filing a lawsuit because they're saying that, like, some of the high schools and things like that they were supposed to be renovating for the kids because they're having to go 15 miles plus to go to a high school, right? That they
Right.
have put the Mexicans there, and that they are putting tents up all over, the streets when it's getting ready. The lady was saying to get very windy in Chicago, the windy city. So they was not understanding why they was doing all the things that they were doing for the Mexican, because she was saying it was basically they were taking away their resources that they were promised and giving it to the Mexicans.
Right. That's all over. The lady just
Yes.
mentioned that. You think it's just New York, but they say all the cities, all the major cities are being inundated with these immigrants. Right.
Shalom, that just sounds like we all said again by design. And that phrase that they said about U.S. uniting with Ukraine. So it's all by design, and in every city there is, and they're just not, whatever their coup is that they're getting ready to reveal, it's in the making.
Okay. Yeah, I want to play this right here. I came across this. So when you just mentioned that about these Ukrainian women and how, so check this out. This guy right here is his name's Saul. He's he's like a writer, I think, and he going around doing speaking engagements and stuff. But anyway, check it out. He says the difference between the whites, different sexual behavior between the whites that was in the South and the whites that was in the North. That's pretty interesting. Check it out.
Came to sexual patterns were as different from northern whites when it came to southern whites were as different from northern whites when it came to sexual patterns as they were in other ways. Widespread casual sex was commented on by outside observers in both the American
Keep in mind the book of Adam and Eve
and South, and in those parts of Britain from which Southerners had come. Here again, the greatest contrast is with New England. While pregnant brides were very rare in 17th century New England, they were more common in the southern backcountry than anywhere else in the United States. A missionary estimated that more than 9/10 of the backcountry women at whose weddings he officiated were already pregnant. In this, as in other respects, the sexual customs of the southern backcountry were similar to those of northwestern England.
Meanwhile, the region of England from which New Englanders came had the lowest rates of illegitimacy in England, just as their descendants had the lowest rates of illegitimacy in the United States. Women dressed more revealingly in the South, and both sexes spoke more freely about sex than was common in New England. In the 17th century, most Virginia girls found a husband by the age of 17, while in Massachusetts, the average age at which women married was 23. In that era, fornication and rape were acts severely punished in New England. Rape was a hanging offense in New England, while in the Chesapeake Bay colonies, it was sometimes punished less severely than petty theft. As with other North-South differences, differences in sexual behavior have often been attributed to the existence of slavery in the South, due in this case to the opportunities which this presented for sexual exploitation of slave women. But again, history shows the same patterns among the same people and their ancestors in Britain, before they had ever seen a black woman. In colonial Virginia as well, the sexual exploitation of white indentured servant girls was common before the slave population had grown large enough for white servant girls to be replaced by black women.
Okay, so say what you're talking about. So we was reading out of the Targums that the Most High said to Abraham, Lord host said to Abraham that he was gonna, through Abraham, the other nations was gonna get blessed. But he goes and explain it, unlike they do in the King James. But in the Targums, he said, "You're gonna be blessed. Other nations gonna be blessed by you, by your teachings." You got to keep in mind Abraham, Melchizedek. Abraham lived with Shem. Shem was Melchizedek. Shem was passed down from Noah to Shem, being Abraham. Abraham had those teachers. So when other nations being blessed by the teachings that Abraham had. So you say, what are you talking about? America, Constitution. Based off what Abraham, the Hebrew teachings, the Arabs, all of them, they blessed because they civilized because they got Abraham's teachings. So you say, what are you talking about? Well, 13 colonies, Edomites. That's why they totally different. And the people down here in the South, they was Japhet. But those people up north, like I said, if you watch the End of the Slave movie, especially like Book of Negroes, I think it's got like 10 episodes to it. So you see the Jew, the Edomite that came and dealt with her, he handled her different than the slave, the rednecks down here in the South, called them Edomites. But the reason they different and they sexual behavior and all that different, they've been exposed to Abraham. Like I said, Esau was raised by Isaac, just like by Abraham, just like hold on, see how to go. Yeah, Esau was raised by Isaac, just like Jacob was. Isaac got the teachings of Abraham, and then he gave them to them. So that's why it was different than the people up north, because of Edomites, 13 colonies. And the ones down here in the South was like I said, they was using them, they hide behind them, using them to run their plantation. But they was reaping all the benefits of it, but that's the difference. And that's what the Most High was talking about when he said other nations are going to get blessed. All these other countries, they didn't have no law, statutes, and judgment. We got it all from us. This whole system over here, it came into existence after they got a hold our records, after we got cast out. We got blessed. And he keep on saying that. What other country is like you that got these laws and these statutes and these judgments that I've given you? Okay? And there's some, he even went to tell you that, they came from Great Britain. That's, you know what I mean? So there it is right there. We had all kind of classes on that.
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's the difference. Like I said, okay. Yeah. So I said earlier that I was gonna pass out some homework. So what I'm doing is we this kind of came up a little bit last week, I think it was, but what happened with Lot. And so I had shined a light on the fact is, and this is what I'm important to everybody that's listening, was why did Lot come to the door and say that he wanted to give his daughters to those people, those wicked ass people, just to protect those men, right? So here we go again in Judges chapter 19, and I'm starting that verse. The story is it's Levite that is one of his concubine that left him and went back to her father's house. So he cared about her, so he went to go get her, right? And so we're gonna pick it up in verse 16, where once he got to the land of where she was at. I think she was in Benjamin. She was amongst the tribe of Benjamin. So it says, and behold, there came in an old man from his work out of the field at evening, which was also of Mount Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gilgal, but the man of the place were Benjamites. And when he had lifted up his eyes, he saw a wayfaring man in the streets of the city. And the old man said, Whither goest thou, and whence comest thou? And he said unto him, We are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, toward the side of the mount Ephraim. From thence I am, and I went to Bethlehem, Judah, but I am now going to the house of the Lord, and there is no man that receiveth me to house. Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me, and for thy handmaiden, and for the young man which is with thee, thy servant. There is no want of anything. And the old man said, Peace be with thee. Howsoever, let all thy wants lie upon me, only lodge not in the streets. So he brought him into his house, gave provenders unto the asses, and they washed their feet, and they did eat and drink. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, behold, men on the street, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring forth for me the man that came into thine house, that we may know him. And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them and said unto them, Nay, my brethren, nay, I pray to you, do not do so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into mine house. Do not this folly. And behold, there is my daughter and maiden and his concubine. Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so vile a thing. But the men would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine and brought her forth unto them, and they knew her, and they abused her all night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawn of the day, and fell down at the door of the man's house where her Lord was, till it was not light. And her Lord rose up in the morning and opened the door of the house and went out to go to his way. And behold, a woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold. And he said unto her, Up, and let us be going. But none answered. Then the man took her upon an ass, and the man rose up and got him unto his place. And when he was coming to his house, he took a knife and laid hold of his concubine and divided her together with her bones in 12 pieces and sent her into the coast of Israel. And it was so that all that saw it said there was no such deed done nor seen on the days of the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your minds. So we see right here, even we see verse 30, the Lord of hosts right here challenging us to deal with that. But anyway, let me read that verse again, 30. And it was so that no such deed, say, and it is so that all that saw it said there was no such deed done nor seen on the days that the children of Israel came up out of Egypt, the land of Egypt, unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your mind. So that's a challenge to me. Sounds like to me. So anyway, so my thing is this. We noticed that the angels came to Abraham, right, and told Abraham when he was 99 years old, he was going to have a child. And then Sarah heard it in the tent, in the back door of the tent, and she said, she laughed, right? Then she said, how am I going to have a baby at 90 years old? And my Lord, her Lord, Abraham, and as 100, right? So we're going to focus on the Lord part. Now let's go right here, back to verse 24. Behold, here is my daughter, it's the Lord of the house. Same Lord that Abraham, Lord over Sarah. So this man, Lord over these women right here. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden. It's the Lord and his concubine. Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, Lord talking, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man, do no such a vile thing. But the man, check this out. But the men would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine, brought her forth unto them, and they knew her and abused her all the night. The Lord did this, and he knew her and abused her all night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Check this out. Same man that brought her out there, a Levite. Okay, 26. Then came the woman in the dawn of the day, fell down at the door of the man's house, the house where her Lord was. See that? Same Lord that Sarah said. Abraham was her Lord. Says where her Lord was till it was light. Now check this out. 27. And her Lord rose up early in the morning, opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. He ain't think about what happened that night when he gave the women to those people. Look at this. And her Lord rose up in the morning, opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman who was concubine was falling down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold. So she hadn't done this. He was on his way back to where he came from. Look at this, 28. And he said to her, up, and let us be going. But none answered. So she did. Then the man took her up on an ass, and the man rose, and he got him unto his place. And when he was come unto his house, he took the knife and laid hold of the concubine and divided her together with her bones into 12 pieces and sent them into the coast. So this, so like I was saying, this is a whole nother mindset that everybody reading over and reading over. So he cut it up because it's unheard of. It's unheard of. So he cut it up in 12 pieces to let all these 12 tribes know this was going on. It's not even, when you look at the law, statutes, and the judgments, this not even, they weren't even thinking. The way we thinking now, they weren't even thinking like that. There's something else totally different going on. was so absurd till he cut up in 12 pieces and sent them out to all Israel. And so, like I said, this a Levite. He said, don't bother me. And another thing I want to read. So I'm reading this, not to talk about it tonight, go do the research, because, we don't know who's going to come up on, what information you're going to come up on. So it says, check this out. Verse 18 says, and he said unto him, we are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, toward the side of the Mount Ephraim. From thence I am, and I went to Bethlehem, Judah, but I am now going to the house of the Lord, and there is no man that receiveth me to the house. Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me, and for my handmaiden, and for my young man, which is with thy servants. There is no want of anything. So yeah, so I just caught that right here in verse 19. When he left to go on this trip to go get his concubine, he got a handmaid with him. So when he came to the door, he brought that handmaid that came with him and the concubine. That's what he did. So see, if down here you go to 23, and the man, the master of the house, the Levite, not the Levite, but the man they brought the Levite in, went out unto them and said unto them, nay, my brothers, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is coming to mine house. Do not this folly. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them will I bring out. So his maiden and the concubine took him gave to the men. But my thing, what I was looking for was that, notice that same Lord, the Lord of the house, washed his feet. And so the reason I pointed out was, here you go, 21. So he brought him in, okay, 20. And the old man said, the master of the house, peace be with thee. However, let all thy wants lie upon me, right? Only lodge not in the streets. Then 21. So he brought him in. It's the master of the house. It's custom, right? So he brought him into the house, gave him provenders unto his asses, and they, see that, washed their feet and did eat. So the master, like he told them, everything fall on me. So they washed their feet. That's what Abraham did with the 3 angels, washed their feet. Go to the New Testament, Mary washing Jay-Z's feet. Ain't that something? That's big.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, my thing is, like I said, dig into whatever sources you want to go to find out why would he do that? That's what Lot did. Why would he do that? Why what's going on? What's the custom? What's the deal? Why would he bring these women out there and give them to these men like that? And like I said, he didn't have no intentions on them. He wasn't expecting to see them no more. It just so happened that girl, that his concubine, made it back to the door. He packed all this stuff on his way back to where he came from, Bethlehem, Judah. But she was there laying at the threshold. So my thing is, like I said, which I'm gonna do the research too, but this is what we're gonna talk about next week. When I ask the question, do anybody have any questions, comments, and Q&A? We at least have this to talk about. We might have something else, but we'll have this. And so what I do is we'll set the stage every week. We have something to research and talk. We have something to talk about doing Q&A. Okay, so yeah, check that out. Okay. So
that's great.
Okay, yeah. So we never know what we're gonna come up with. So yeah. So let me get this right here. I was going to play a little bit of this. It was kind of interesting to me. should slave or descendants be paid? And this guy is going around questioning people. So we get some of the comments and some of the suggestions people make it. So that was Judges 19 where I was at. Okay. So, there you go.
It's very racist. Black people have been consistently oppressed. I think there's people that think they're victims and they're not. So what groups should receive reparations then? Start with black people.
My community deserves it because of the things that we've been through.
About what they did. They need to pay that shit back. So I'm out here today and the question I'm asking is, should Americans pay for reparations?
Depends. Who are we talking about?
In San Francisco, they're looking to increase taxes to pay reparations for black people, as well as universal basic income for trans people.
Modern day society.
So check out how they slide this in. That's what I was talking about. Where the hell does trans come from? Check it out.
Society should be paying reparations to black people that you had mentioned just because of everything that they've faced, but I do not believe that we should be paying for trans people to not have.
Exactly.
I think it depends totally on the situation because, like in your example, all black people, that's a huge demographic. Not every black person has been quote unquote oppressed.
I mean, especially with black and trans people, I think that they're given a lot of like opportunities. Like I'm doing investment banking recruiting right now. I know for people for diversity, equity, inclusion, they can access the interviewing process a lot sooner and a lot earlier than I can. For example, I think Black Americans have an equal opportunity to achieve like anything that any other race can in the U.S.
How do you determine if a certain group is oppressed to be able to get those reparations? Obviously, if they're black.
There's a lot of history in this country, and I think that to take the step to do right, just to go forward and say that we made this happen and we're sorry, and here's a way to, bring you guys to a level of equality.
For the black community specifically, reparations will go a long way just because I think a lot of people don't really understand that our community is set up for failure sometimes. A lot of people come from homes that are not only just broken, but are financially illiterate, so they don't know how to use money. Giving them reparations would hopefully set them off with a bigger platform than what they generally would have.
That's a really important point that you brought up, though, because you can give people money, but if they don't have the necessary skills to invest it or keep it or save it, then that'll be gone in seconds, right?
It could definitely do more harm than good if it's put into the wrong hands.
Because today, cities in California are proposing reparations as high as $5 million per eligible black person, as well as universal basic income for trans people.
The city of San Francisco is considering an idea to pay reparations for the black community. Reparations start for transgender and non-binary residents.
With a looming recession and America's continued divide, we must question if reparations would fix past wrongs or create unintended consequences. Because what exactly is a victim if we're all victims to some degree? And is money truly the solution, or is it more money, more problems? Guess we don't see. So what groups should receive reparations then?
Start with black people.
So would this be like any black person? Like let's say if they have like descendants from slaves, or is this just a black person? Let's say if they just came from Jamaica or Africa, would they be entitled to reparations?
The difference between like black American, me, myself, right, and someone from Jamaica or Africa is they have a place to call home. For a lot of black Americans, their whole ethnic identity was erased by slavery.
So you said that you should start with like black people. Then who should be like the next group next?
Probably the gays. I don't know how much they need it though, because they're doing pretty well. But
I've never met a poor gay person.
They're doing great for themselves.
I think it should be for everybody. My community deserves it because of the things that we've been through. I would be remiss to say another community doesn't deserve something because they're a little bit more set up than my community.
So, but would it be like equal amounts across the board, or would there be like, I hate to say this, like a stack ranking of who was more oppressed?
That I don't know.
I think that we should look at who we oppressed the most for the longest amount of time and do right by them.
Everyone has their own rights to identify as a victim, but at the end of the day, it's not going to get you where you want to be. I think that you can cash checks and spend the money, but if you're not putting in the work, you're never going to learn, and none of the generations after you are going to learn either.
Well, there's a race for who's the biggest victim, there will be consequences for paying some groups and others not. So I was curious to hear the other side. Would you say, though, that certain groups in America are more likely to face, let's say, systemic oppression?
You know, especially like now we have like affirmative action. If anything, that levels the playing fields or puts them at an advantage for a lot of certain opportunities. But I think there are definitely certain instances of racism, and you can't root out all racism. I think that there are generally equal opportunities.
Besides all the controversies surrounding affirmative action, is this even a valid form of repayment? Do you think affirmative action is a form of reparations?
It would depend on who you're talking to, honestly. To a kid in Compton who has no means of getting out of that little area, it might not be the same. Sometimes your surroundings, especially in an environment where you don't feel like you can make it out, can seem very overwhelming. So it's hard to think outside of that.
And so when affirmative action has been deemed legal by law, does that signal a government's obligation to solve inequality? And if so, through financial or other means, to what extent?
The forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.
Die Bundesregierung wird in Zukunft ihre Bemühungen um die Verteidigung der Freiheit nicht nachlassen.
After World War II in 1952, Germany signed the first set of reparations agreements to compensate Holocaust survivors, which is to this day has paid out a total of 80 billion euros.
One scoop of AG1 replaces multiple.
We owe that to those who survived and bravely carried the burden of their painful memories.
And despite obvious frustrations over payments, there's been decent support from Germans over the years, and at least no instances of anti-Semitic backlash. And since then, reparations have been ongoing, where even this past year, Germany announced the largest ever package of 1.2 billion for remaining survivors. And with 80% of survivors in Eastern Europe below the poverty line, financial reparations have definitely made a benefit. And together with symbolic reparations such as Holocaust museums and memorials, Germany has made efforts to ensure atrocities are not forgotten or repeated. But it raises the question, were the intentions behind the reparations out of genuine guilt or to buy cooperation? Because for initial recipients, not all were in favor. Some Jews opposed the idea of reparations and blood money in an insult and commodification to their suffering. And especially when we look at Germany's history with reparations, it may reveal answers. The Treaty of Versailles imposed heavy reparations on Germany after World War I, which led to economic instability and political unrest that contributed to the rise of Nazi Germany and ultimately to World War II. And so what empty promises lead to further distrust and inequality. And if paying reparations can lead to further division, is reparations a viable solution, or will it create more problems for the future? And are we too attached to our own stories that we're unable to seek a solution? Let me ask you this.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Yes, sir. And you talked about how they keep slipping the LGBTQ in there for reparations as well.
Right.
Talking about being taken advantage of or less than. If they even try to equate that to something, they would have to go all the way back to the Romans, the Catholics, all of them in Britain and all, because they did get the young boys and do what they wanted to them and make them become one. They had the women, be doing things to other women in front of them, and then they became, wanting to do that. But that still doesn't negate. No one got beaten and talked about and degraded like the blacks did. Shalom.
Right. Yeah. I sit there. Anybody else got anything? Yeah, I sit there and looked at that, and I was looking at understanding about Esau and Jacob. He was raised by Abraham, just like Jacob was. So if you go back and look at when we came over here, look what they sent with us. They sent a pig, something that's against our culture, against our laws and our statutes. They sent the hog with us, and the chicken and all that. And they even like with this situation,
if they do eventually give us anything, whether reparations or whatever, they got something diabolical like transgender attached to it. They're gonna always keep us in a state of defilement. That's what the Most High said, right? That he, you know, if you go back to the story with Judah, the guy was telling them, he said, you know, why is they, you know, everybody else, all the other countries I came up to, they heard about me and they just opened their doors and let me in and gave the country over to me. But these Judeans, they setting up for war. And so the guy, the Edomite that was with them, he told them, he said, they, as long as they with their God, as long as they in good standings with their God, you can't do nothing with them. So when you understand that every time, whatever they do with us, it's going to be some kind of defilement attached to it. It's like with the women, when they came over on a slave ship, they defiled them, defiled the men. They constantly going to keep us in a state of defilement. That's why they won't let us go off by ourselves, because we're gonna based on who we are and our past and our forefathers and our history, it's a remnant that's gonna end up being purifying themselves. And then that's when all hell gonna break loose. So they don't never want us nowhere where they don't know where we at, where they don't have no hand in it, because they're gonna constantly try to keep us defiled. JC is another way they defile us. Idle. All right. Any comments?
I agree.
Okay, yeah, so you got to constantly keep that in mind. Like I said, on a day-to-day basis, you know, you got to look at the things that, you know, that you're doing. And is he causing you to be defiled, or is he causing you, is he separating you from the Lord of hosts, or is he drawing you nigh to him? Okay. So with that being said, I say shalom to everybody. We're gonna be on Clubhouse tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for non-Masonic conversations. So anybody want to join us, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Shalom.
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 Shalom.